A three-state sweep by the DEA leads to the arrest of 51 people with ties to a Mexican drug cartel.
WLKY's Addie Miner spoke with investigators about this operation spanning Kentucky, Tennessee, and West Virginia and explains the significance.
51 people in Kentucky, West Virginia, and Tennessee were arrested.
Before sunrise, federal teams launched a coordinated sweep across 3 states, marking one of the most significant law enforcement actions in recent history. Named Operation Iron Veil, the mission secured more than 3 tons of illegal substances and over 130 dangerous weapons. Convoys, helicopters, and tactical units moved with precision as 51 suspects were safely detained and millions in criminal funds were recovered. By the time the sun rose, authorities had uncovered a major unlawful network operating deep inside the American heartland.
Drugs and money moving in and out of Louisville into the hands of the Mexican cartel.
By dawn, 51 individuals connected to 2 major international trafficking groups were in custody. Federal agencies had confiscated over 3 tons of harmful substances, more than 130 weapons, and nearly $2 million in unlawful proceeds. Helicopters circled overhead while specialized units safely secured hazardous materials. Although the scene looked intense from the outside, every movement was a carefully planned operation, months in the making inside the Louisville Command Center. Monitors tracked heat signatures and GPS signals in real time. Each target location on the digital map turned from red to green as it was secured. When the final marker changed, the room erupted in relief. Phase 1 was complete, the largest recovery effort ever recorded in the region.
133 firearms, $78,000 in cash, and nearly 9,000 pills were all seized as a part of this 3-state drug bust. And the DEA says it all has ties to the Sinaloa Mexican cartel.
Behind these numbers was a hidden figure known to investigators only through encrypted communication, Rafael El Sombra Ortega. For years, he existed as a shadow, rarely seen, constantly moving. Ortega coordinated logistics for a powerful criminal network, connecting foreign suppliers to distribution routes inside the United States. Shipments were disguised as agricultural cargo, with documents listing fertilizer and farm tools, while trucks secretly carried industrial-grade illegal supplies hidden behind false panels. Ortega used shell companies, warehouses, and digital freight platforms to conceal routes. Cities like Louisville, Lexington, Knoxville, and Charleston quietly became hubs for this unlawful movement. Peaceful towns were turned into strategic corridors without anyone knowing.
They profit on the backs of the families that have lost loved ones throughout our communities. So it's a significant risk.
This bust alone stopped more.
During this operation, investigators discovered chilling evidence. Confiscated ledgers and storage containers seized in Kentucky matched manufacturing marks found on containers captured previously abroad. A faint phoenix-like symbol confirmed that this operation was not a small branch. It was the U.S. division of a dangerous international organization distributing harmful substances. The network blended legitimate commerce with illegal cargo, using the same infrastructure that moves everyday goods across America. On paper, it looked like business. In reality, it was a direct threat.
A lot of people think that activity stops at the southwest border, but the drugs that the Sinaloa cartel is producing makes its way across the country, and our 3 states are certainly not immune to that.
In fact,
the first wave began at 5:59 a.m. precise. 9 tactical units moved in formation, striking 11 targets in under 60 seconds. Aerial drones scanned rooftops and streets with infrared vision as teams issued commands through controlled smoke signals. In Tennessee, federal officers entered a trucking facility that secretly housed an illegal production setup. Beneath reinforced flooring, they uncovered hidden passageways connecting trucks concealed behind false loading areas. Inside, thousands of imitation tablets with fake medical labeling were found, counterfeit medication made to look real, but dangerously altered. In West Virginia, an FBI team located Manuel Cano, the key assistant to Ortega. He had hidden inside an abandoned mine, surrounded by large amounts of cash and encrypted communication equipment. A brief exchange occurred inside the tunnels. When the area was secure, Cano was found unresponsive. His computer remained active, linked to an overseas server. Within hours, that connection led investigators to financial records tying the U.S. operation directly to offshore accounts associated with Ortega.
Arrests that we made run the gamut from somebody that's selling drugs on a corner, maybe in a more rural part of our region, to somebody that's in charge of bringing those drugs from, let's say, a hub.
As the mission unfolded, a troubling shock emerged inside the Louisville Mobile Command Unit. Encrypted messages appeared across the internal monitoring system, showing that criminal groups were reacting moments before federal entry teams reached each site. Someone had leaked time-sensitive information. Secure dispatch codes were showing up in intercepted communication streams. An analyst whispered, "They knew our schedule." Command immediately shifted to emergency protocols. All devices were locked down, channels changed, and digital audits launched. Minutes later, cyber teams traced the breach to a local law enforcement relay point, where secure codes had been forwarded to an unregistered contact prior to the operation. This was no longer only organized crime, it was internal compromise. Someone with a badge had passed information to the other side.
It shows us how shooting more than a year ago led local and federal investigators to a stash linked to the cartel.
By sunrise, the day held both triumph and warning. The operation made history, massive quantities of illegal substances secured, weapons confiscated, and millions in unlawful funds frozen. But the inside betrayal showed the challenge ahead. One senior officer quietly remarked, "We struck hard today." Yet the enemy had tried to move from outside the system to inside it. Operation Iron Veil exposed a hidden threat, a struggle taking place not only on streets or across borders, but inside institutions meant to protect the public. By midday, the evidence facility in Louisville resembled a secure warehouse of recovered contraband. Row after row of sealed containers sat under bright floodlights, logged and guarded. The illegal substances, multiple tons in total, formed stacks taller than a person, representing one of the most significant recovery efforts in the region's history.
Scott says his office isn't finished investigating yet, and he believes more arrests are on the way.
So if we're doing our job right, we're going after those, the biggest fish that we can find in our pond, and we're working those cases up and out, trying to connect the dots.
Specialized safety teams in protective suits carefully inspected each container, recording chemical barrels and running purity tests. Nearby, over 90,000 fake pills were laid out on a steel table. Their bright colors, blue, orange, and white, made them appear harmless, but they were dangerous imitations of real medicine. Federal scientists confirmed that the chemical strength inside them was severe enough to cause major harm to entire communities. On another table, 133 weapons sat under bright lights. Some had been illegally modified. Tactical gear, protective armor, and advanced night vision equipment were arranged in rows. One firearm still carried an official evidence label, showing it had once been in police custody, proof of internal compromise. This scene did not resemble street-level crime. It showed an organized, militarized network operating inside the country.
43 firearms were seized, some of which were AR-15s, and 2 were linked back to a 2022 homicide and a 2021 officer-involved shooting, along with...
The financial evidence was equally alarming. Investigators counted over $2 million in cash, some marked with chemical traces. Banking records linked funds to shell companies in foreign locations and then back into U.S. payroll systems. Every record followed the same pattern, money flowing in a loop that supported both criminal activity and corrupted insiders. Officials later described it as a battle for the nation's integrity. For the first time, leaders publicly acknowledged that the influence had penetrated enforcement systems. In response, the Justice Department approved Project Sentinel, a joint initiative by the FBI, ICE, and DHS. The mission wasn't just to confront criminal groups, it was to identify and remove internal corruption. Teams of investigators immediately spread across 3 states targeting compromised personnel identified through Iron Veil's intelligence.
95% of the drugs in our area come from the Sinaloa and Jalisco Mexican cartels.
The arrests began discreetly. Early morning vans arrived at local departments, and quietly, uniforms were removed and badges surrendered. Detectives, deputies, and a few federal liaisons were escorted out under official custody. Within a week, dozens were detained. Evidence included bank transfers, concealed accounts, secure chats, and digital ledgers documenting improper payments disguised as equipment reimbursements. In Washington, the aftermath reached Congress. Lawmakers introduced the Integrity Shield Act, giving federal auditors full access to law enforcement financial systems nationwide. Televised hearings revealed the monetary trail as prosecutors explained the network on large screens. Each revelation made headlines, calling it a fight to protect the honor of the badge. The Justice Department described it as essential accountability.
Drugs are becoming more and more deadly, more and more potent, more and more dangerous, and they're becoming easier, faster, and cheaper to obtain. Not only do you have to focus on this...
Privately, agents who had survived Operation Iron Veil joined Project Sentinel. Their task, uncover every remaining internal collaborator. The investigation expanded into private security companies, supply vendors, and local police associations. What they uncovered confirmed deep-rooted misconduct. Corruption had turned into a business model. The clean-up process was difficult, but it strengthened institutions. Remaining officers took renewed oaths under public oversight. 2 weeks later, intelligence revealed that Ortega, known as El Sombra, had escaped through Central America, slipping into maritime smuggling routes. Surveillance observed unmarked vessels traveling without lights or identification near international waters. They were not fishing boats, they were modified cargo vessels built for speed and transport. A new threat was emerging at sea.
Not only do you have to focus on the southwest border, but you've got to focus on all the other avenues that they're using to bring these drugs into the country.
Addie Minor.
Inside national security rooms, a new plan began circulating. Project Crimson Tide, a maritime strategy intended to block illegal weapon and supply pipelines before they reached U.S. shores. Naval intelligence and Coast Guard units coordinated with the same Iron Veil agents, now reassigned to coastal operations. The nation was preparing to intercept threats on open water. Back in affected states, communities began healing. In Kentucky and Tennessee, crowds gathered near courthouses as secured trucks transported confiscated contraband. Children waved flags while local police leaders promised renewed transparency and safety. In community centers and churches, people spoke openly about recovery, accountability, and rebuilding trust. Healing wasn't only about infrastructure, it was about restoring belief that the system could still protect the public.